Drake. I'm an equine science major. I'm from Warner, New Hampshire, and today I'm going to talk to you about Bridle Fit. I'm going to be using my horse Tally as our model for today. So the first bridle I want to show you is a dressage bridle. And this type of bridle is an anatomical bridle, which means that it just avoids pressure points on the horse's face. Crown piece, it's shaped like this to avoid their ears, so it gives room for their ears. And also the noseband is wide to evenly distribute the pressure. And it also has this little dip right here to avoid the cheekbone. Another thing about this bridle is it has rolled cheek pieces to also avoid pressure points on their face. So to put on a bridle, the first thing I like to do is put the reins over the horse's head. This is just so when I take the halter off, I have something to grab onto the horse so they don't walk around and they're free. The next thing I do is unclip the cross ties, unhook her halter. I keep one hand over her nose just so she can't move around. Slip the halter off. I have the bridle. I hold it with one hand, and the other hand I get the bit and I put it in her mouth. The next thing you want to do is put one ear through and then the other. And then for the noseband, you want to put it underneath the cheek pieces of the bridle, just so it doesn't interfere with the bit. And then you want to fasten the noseband underneath her jaw. This type of noseband is a crank noseband, which sounds worse than it is, but it just makes it easier to fasten the bridle. And always make sure you put the extra leather through the keepers. So for the noseband, you want to make sure you can have at least one finger underneath the noseband. That way you can tell if it's too tight or not. So this is called the flash noseband, and this just goes over her mouth, and it helps keep her mouth closed while we're riding. And you want to make sure that it's in front of the bit. And along with this, you want to make sure you can get one finger underneath it. Put it through the keepers. Okay, and finally, the throat latch. For the throat latch, you want to make sure you can fit at least a fist underneath her jaw, right here, or 4 fingers from her cheek. For the crown piece, you want to make sure it's not too tight, so you want to be able to make sure you can get your hand underneath. And you also want to make sure she has plenty of room to move her ears around and they're not getting pinched by the bridle. For the cheek pieces, you want to make sure that they're not touching her cheekbone, and they're about 1 finger away from her cheekbone, so it doesn't put any pressure on her cheekbone. The noseband, you also want to make sure that it avoids the cheekbone. So if you have enough room for 1 finger to fit, then you're pretty good. If you can fit 1.5 fingers, it's even better. And that is the anatomical bridle. Another bridle that a lot of dressage riders use is just a regular Cavesson bridle. And it looks like this. So this bridle, you can see it's a little different than the anatomical version. it's just a straight crown piece, and also the noseband is straight. So you can see the difference from that noseband and this one. They both have a flash noseband, which helps keep their mouth shut while riding. And also the cheek pieces on this one aren't rolled. The next bridle I'm going to show you guys is a figure-8 bridle. A lot of eventers and jumpers use these bridles. This bridle has rubber reins, and this helps they're grippier. So especially for eventing, when they get wet, they are easier to grip. Another thing about this bridle is that it also has a flash strap to go around their nose to help keep their mouth shut. Okay, so for figure-8 bridles, they fit a little differently than the dressage bridles. So this part, which resembles the noseband part, you want to make sure that the ring is about 1 finger width away from the bottom of their cheekbone, because if it was below, it would get caught on their cheekbone when you pulled on the reins. The flash strap is the same tightness as the dressage bridle, and the same for the throat latch. You want to make sure you have 4 fingers or a fist underneath. The crown piece you need to be able to fit your hand through, and also you need to make sure there's enough room for the horse's ears. And also you want to make sure you can fit a finger width underneath that too. And that's a figure-8 bridle. Yep.
Okay, the double bridle in dressage is used from horses 3rd level and above, and in international sanctioned competition is required. The reason that it is used is that you have a combination of the snaffle, which is bradoon, which is called the bradoon, and the curb bit with curb chain. And this combination allows the rider to have more refined hand aids, so that I liken it to the difference between a thick pencil and a fine ballpoint pen. But it requires a horse that is capable of accepting that, just as with children, you don't put a fine pen in the hands of a small child. So as they get more educated, it allows the rider to have more refined aids. The snaffle is used for flexion, lateral, and acceptance. The curb is used for longitudinal flexion and to receive forward and more forward energy in control. So you can have a horse that is very high energy with good control without having to use a lot of hand. The noseband, it's a regular red noseband, and the reins are adjusted the same. The bradoon should be slightly longer than the curb, so that it lies in the horse's mouth above. That way they are separated. The curb chain is what gives the leverage to the curb. That is what gives the fine tuning. When we adjust it, I can show you the different adjustments and their effect aside. Okay, the fitting of it. This horse is difficult to fit because his mouth is so short. The Bridoon should sit above the curb and they should be separate. They shouldn't overlap. With him, it's very difficult to do, again. And with geldings, they have tushes. And the curb bit should never touch the tucks. You know, it should lie on the bars of the mouth, not touching the tusk there. And they should lie separate. The curb generic, that he wears a short curb. They come longer because he's quite sensitive in the mouth. So the longer the curb, the more leverage you have, the stronger the action. Generically, the curb chain should be fit so that when in action, there's a 45-degree angle with the mouth when it engages. If you want a stronger action, if you have a horse that tends to be strong and needs more leverage, you can do it tighter, which would give you more leverage. Because he's sensitive, almost too sensitive, he goes with the minimum. The curb chain, he wears a curb chain guard, again, so there's not a lot of pressure on his lower jaw. If you have a horse that tends to be strong in the jaw, without the curb chain guard, this would have, again, a stronger effect. When you adjust the curb chain, it should lie completely flat against the horse. The tendency is for people, I can't even do it the wrong way because I do it the right way all the time, is to adjust it where it's convenient for them, and now there's kinks in it. Then it doesn't lie flat when the curb is engaged. It's important that when you do your curb, you twist it, and you go 1/4, adjust, and then it lies completely flat. The noseband should fit, again, he's so short. You don't want the bit to engage with it. 2 fingers under the jawline is good. He goes a little higher. Again, it's just because of his conformation. It's sort of 1.5 fingers. Otherwise, the bits and the noseband interfere. So generically, it's 2 fingers. He's 1.5 fingers, mostly because of his short, tiny cob head, even though he's a warm blood. He wears a cut back padded bridle. This should not pull the cheek pieces forward. It should be loose enough that it doesn't pull them forward. Again, he's a very sensitive horse, so he goes well with the pull. This is a non-pressure pull bridle. Some horses need the pull pressure, which is what this does. Gives leverage, again, to get the submission and flexion. Each bridle is designed a little differently, and you'll have a lecture on the different bits and what their effects, but this is the generic fitting of this bridle.